You know that exact moment when your paycheck finally hits your account? What's the very first thing you look at? Well, if you're like most of us, your eyes go straight to the tax stub. You scan the deductions, the state tax, the federal tax, and you probably think you have a pretty good handle on exactly what's being taken from you. But I'm here to tell you, you're actually looking in the completely wrong place. The absolute biggest theft of your hard-earned wealth, it isn't sitting on that piece of paper, not even close. It's this silent, almost invisible drain, and it's happening right there in the cereal aisle, at the gas pump, in all the everyday moments of your life. So today in this explainer, we're going to unravel a financial mystery that is secretly dictating the lives of every single one of us. $2 trillion. Think about the sheer scale of that number for a second. Hidden Possibilities suggests that a massive, invisible $2 trillion gap is currently being filled right in the shadows of our economy. And let me be clear, this is not funded by those overt taxes you see on your pay stub. It actually operates as a hidden cost. It's a secret tax that you literally never ever voted for, and yet you're being forced to pay it every single day. Let's look at why this massive mathematical impossibility is unfolding right now. To put this impending 2026 crisis into perspective, just look at the raw numbers. The government expects to collect roughly $5 trillion from absolutely every tax imaginable. We're talking payroll, property, even the hidden taxes on your morning cup of coffee. But here is where the math gets terrifying. They have already planned to spend $7 trillion. So we're left with a staggering $2 trillion void. And, when the math fundamentally just does not add up like that, the system has to find that money somewhere.
Now you might be wondering, well, why don't they just cut the spending, right? It seems simple. But actually, cutting spending is completely off the table. These massive programs, Social Security, Medicare, the military, they've become colossal businesses. They're literally untouchable. You can't just trim them down without sparking an immediate, catastrophic global crisis. The political and economic shockwaves would be totally unmanageable.
So this leaves us with a massive, glaring question. If this $2 trillion isn't coming from higher over taxes, and it absolutely, positively isn't coming from spending cuts, where exactly is it coming from? Some believe the answer lies in a mechanism so deeply hidden in the shadows, most people will walk through their entire lives without ever realizing it even exists. To truly understand this abstract, massive scale of borrowing, we actually have to look no further than your fading grocery receipt. Think back to a full grocery cart from just 5 short years ago. Now compare that to the nearly empty basket you get for the exact same price today. A crisp $100 bill buys you significantly less than it just did. And the crazy thing is, your labor hasn't changed. You are working just as hard as you always have. But your money has fundamentally changed. Hidden News suggests that when a government spends money it simply does not have, well, someone eventually has to pay the price. To fill this unbelievable $2 trillion gap, the government must borrow. But here's the catch. They aren't just borrowing from everyday citizens buying bonds, and they aren't just borrowing from foreign nations. No, they are quietly going straight to the ultimate source. Let's peel back the curtain and see what that source really is. And this brings us to the very first major revelation of our explainer today. We are all taught that the Federal Reserve is this great, steadfast protector of our economy. But deep historical dives and ancient accounts suggest the Federal Reserve is actually not a bank. It holds no actual reserves whatsoever. And the absolute biggest twist of all, it is not even a federal entity. It is an independent private entity operating behind a corporate seal, quietly pulling the massive levers of our entire economic reality from behind tightly closed doors. They don't even print stacks of paper money anymore like you see in those old heist movies. Instead, Hidden News reveals they perform things called open market operations. Now, what does that actually mean in plain English? It means that with a single, solitary keystroke on a computer, they summon infinite digital capital literally out of thin air to lend to the government. It's the ultimate digital creation of wealth birthed from absolute nothingness. But here is the kicker. That newly created money, it does not flow to you and me right away. It has to pass through a tightly guarded gateway. There are exactly 24 primary dealer banks on Wall Street. These are the giant gatekeepers. Hidden Possibilities suggest that these 24 elite institutions get the very first touch of this newly created infinite digital money, long before the rest of the world even knows it exists. Which leads us directly to the hidden rule of this entire shadow system, the Cantillon effect. This is a brilliant, insidious mechanism that guarantees the very first people to spend this newly created money get to use it at today's current, lower prices. They spend it right before that massive influx of new currency floods the system and dilutes the value of every other dollar out there. The insiders capture the pure, undiluted value, while the broader public, well, we just get the delayed, devastating consequences.
And honestly, here is our second major revelation of this explainer. The divide this creates is just absolutely devastating. The Wall Street insiders get that first access capital. But you, by the time that newly minted digital money finally ripples all the way down into your paycheck, maybe 6 to 18 months later, the prices for basic human survival, gas, housing, food, they have already skyrocketed. You aren't getting a share of new wealth, you are simply receiving the diluted leftovers of a currency that has already been stripped of its purchasing power.
The harsh mathematical reality of this divide is staggering. We are looking at a 17 times increase in housing costs over the decades. The insiders use their early, privileged access to this cheap, newly printed capital to buy up the exact same hard assets, the land, the homes, that you are desperately struggling to afford. They aren't just one step ahead of the middle class. Their exclusive access to this capital is the very cause of the prices running away from you in the first place. I want you to stop and think about this personally for a second. Seriously, look back at your own grocery bill from last year. Think about the price of eggs, a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk. What is your actual personal inflation rate? When you feel that immediate, painful sting of those rising prices at the checkout line, you are feeling the direct physical consequence of this deeply hidden system at work. Now, let's cast our eyes over to the stock market. We see the S&P 500 has experienced this incredible 58 times market boom since 1971. But let's look at this through the lens of that secret tax we've been talking about. Is this massive boom really happening because the companies of today are miraculously 58 times better, more efficient, and more innovative than they were in 1971? Or is it simply because there is 58 times more digital money out there in the system, desperately chasing the exact same finite assets? To understand exactly why 1971 is a baseline for all of this, we have to look at what I call the 1971 trap. This brings us to our third and perhaps most chilling twist in this explainer. It perfectly bridges the gap between the past and our present reality, exposing the long-term compounding damage of a financial system that quietly shifted its core rules while nobody was looking.
Let's just take a step back to 1971. Back then, a single-income household could comfortably afford a house, a car, and a college education for their kids. Fast forward to the year 2000, dual incomes weren't just a lifestyle choice anymore. They became heavily relied upon just to maintain that same exact middle-class standard. And as we look toward 2026, we are seeing two completely exhausted working adults barely keeping up with basic survival bills. The amount of human labor required to survive has doubled, while the actual quality of life has completely stalled out.
So, you see, this isn't just inflation. It is time theft, plain and simple. This hidden tax, this continuous, relentless dilution of the money you work so hard for, has effectively stolen half of your family's time. You are working twice as many hours as a household, and yet your wages have completely failed to keep pace with the massive asset growth enjoyed by the elite who sit closest to the money printer. They captured the wealth, and you gave up your time. And you want to know the most terrifying part of this entire mystery? The system is not slowing down, not even a little bit. As we stare down the barrel of the future, that massive $2 trillion borrowing cycle is starting all over again right now, gearing up for 2026. The printing press is warming up, the digital keystrokes are being prepared, and that hidden tax is getting ready to quietly sweep through your savings once more. But listen to me, you are not powerless here. Understanding this system, everything we've covered in this explainer, is the very first step. You have to protect your family. You absolutely cannot let your future and your children's future be the collateral for a debt that you did not create. You must learn the rules of this shadow system and start building a solid bridge of hard assets today, right now, before the next $1 trillion arrives and washes away the purchasing power of your hard-earned savings. The things we don't pay attention to in the shadows, they are so often the things that dictate our lives the most. So I'm going to leave you with this final, lingering thought to reflect on today. Is your money truly working for you, building your independence and your freedom? Or are you spending your precious, irreplaceable time working for a currency that, by its very design, is meant to quietly disappear?